Guys, we're back for another video tutorial this week, and this is for the time to create section. Last week we talked about forms, so we drew two-dimensional shapes and turned them into three-dimensional forms. We're going to be working a little bit with form today, but we're really going to be focusing on the element of art called space. So I'd like you to get a piece of paper and write this down, please. And you can write it with a pencil. I'm just doing it so you can see it. Space. Now in space there's a thing called perspective. Okay. Space is any area an artist uses for a purpose. So an area that an artist uses for a purpose, that could be like a canvas, or it could be a sketchbook sheet, or it could be a piece of cardboard. So this paper is an area that an artist uses for a purpose. Usually it's an area that an artist uses for a purpose for artwork, but space, it's really anything around us as well. So one kind of space that I'm sure you've seen come up on our SCM this week is positive space and negative space. And I just drew a plus sign and a negative sign, minus sign. So positive space is basically an actual object. So I'll write the actual object. And negative space is the empty area. So actual objects for last week were all of the forms that you drew. You know, your cube, your sphere, your cylinder, your cone, and then the empty area would have been around that. Well, here's another way of remembering positive and negative space. So you could draw two boxes here. Draw an actual object like, I don't know, just a black dot. It could represent like a kickball or something like that. And then we'll draw that same ball, except we're going to leave it empty and fill in the rest of the area around it. Okay, so in this scenario on the left, the actual object would be the dot, and the empty area around it would be the negative space. In this scenario, the actual object, it could be maybe it's a black piece of paper, and then it's got a hole in the middle of it. Well, that's the empty area as well. So if you think about it opposite, that could be a white ball in a really dark alleyway, and this could be a hole down in the middle of a ground. So they're interchangeable. It just depends on how you look at it. Perspective and space are really interchangeable. They go hand in hand. And perspective says that basically a two-dimensional surface or a flat area we can give the illusion to that flat area. It turns into, flat area, I would say, transforms into the illusion of having how do I want to say it? Of having 3D qualities. Okay, so a 2D flat area or a space that's two-dimensional can transform into the illusion of having three-dimensional qualities. That's what we're going to be working on today. That's sort of what you did before with the forms, except now we're going to put a name to it. Today we're going to be using 1 point perspective. One-point perspective is literally when you use one dot called a vanishing point. And everything recedes or goes toward that vanishing point. We're also going to be looking at today a horizon line. That's Horizon, horizon line, and also some extension lines. Oops, I spelled that wrong, sorry. Extension is with an S. Extension lines. Little sleepy right now, sorry. Horizon line and extension lines. Good. Okay, so let's take a look at perspective. Perspective says that we have, and this is what you're going to do on your paper, you're going to draw a horizon line just in the middle of your paper somewhere, and on your horizon line you're going to put a point right in the middle. So just with a ruler, go along just like this and draw a line across, and then in the middle put a vanishing point. Now the vanishing point is sort of like, you can imagine like the sun is right there and everything's going toward that point. Well, if we want to draw basically the area around us, if we want to draw life around us, like houses or buildings or trees, and make them look like they're all not falling over, and that we want to draw in real life, this is where we start. So here are the steps for drawing boxes in one-point perspective, and this actually will give us today three-dimensional cubes. However, these cubes will be in perspective, so they won't look like they're falling over. They will be the way they're supposed to be in space. So we're going to start with the front of the box. That's step number one, and I'm going to put this form on Google Classroom so you can see it. Start with the front of the box. I've done that here. It doesn't matter how big your boxes are. I have some that are more rectangular, some that are more square. So start with 4 boxes. And after you do that, then you're going to make sure that they're surrounding the vanishing point. They can be, if you want them to be, they can be on the horizon line, so you actually can overlap the horizon line if you want to. I chose not to, just, it's a little bit more confusing and I wanted to keep it simple for you. So that's that. So you're going to draw your boxes in. You can pause the video if you need to do that right now. Okay, and now we're going to come in with point number 2. So point number 2 says, draw extension lines from corners that you see to the vanishing point. So the 4 corners of our boxes, we're going to be drawing lines that extend to the vanishing point. So I'll do that with all of my boxes. I'm going to find my corners that look like they're facing the vanishing point, and I'll do that now. If you don't have a ruler at home, please use the edge of a book, or maybe you have a bookmark or something that just has a straight edge. It's very important for these lines to be straight today. So we're drawing 4 boxes, all surrounding the vanishing point, and drawing in the extension lines that go towards and touch the vanishing point. So here I've got my 2 boxes and the lines are going to the vanishing point. I'm going to keep going around. Now obviously I wouldn't draw this corner here because it would go through my box. So you just leave that outside edge or outside corner alone. Okay, and then one more box. Okay, So now we've got 4 boxes all going towards the vanishing point. They look awesome. Now the one thing I want to tell you is if you do put a box, and I'll just do it so that you can see what it looks like. If you do put a box right on your horizon line, you will notice, and if you feel like doing it, go for it. If you don't, that's okay. Or maybe you already did it. Okay, so you'll notice that only 2 corners can go toward the vanishing point because it's on eye level. The horizon line is on eye level, so this would be like us standing right in front of a building. We'd only see the side of the building. We won't, and here, if we were standing right here, we would be looking up at the building. And so that's the reason why that the boxes that are on top of the vanishing point, we can see underneath them. So here's the underneath, here's the underneath. If I'm standing high on a mountaintop, let's pretend there's a mountain back here. I'm standing on this mountaintop looking down, so I'm above the horizon line. I'm looking down, then I can see the tops of the buildings. So just picture maybe I'm on the the top of the Grand Canyon. There's a little tiny house down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Well, I would see the top of the house. But if I'm in a valley, very low, and there's a house up on the top of a hill, I'd probably see the bottom side, even underneath a deck or something like that. This is called a dog's perspective down here because the dogs are on the ground. And this is called a bird's perspective up here because the birds are up top. Okay, so that's a lot, but let's keep going with the next section. Now we're going to draw the back edges of the box. These edges are parallel to the front edges. This is the hardest part, you guys, because these front edges need to be exactly vertical to the back edges, which means they're parallel. That means they never cross each other. They're like railroad tracks, and they never touch. And this is how you do it. So you're going to take your ruler, put it on the front edge of your box. I'm going to draw it darker so you can see it. So I'm working with the front edge of my box here. I'm going to take my ruler, and without tilting my ruler at all, I'm going to keep it very, very straight. And I'm going to slide it back. Now you could slide it really far back if you wanted to, or you could slide it not so far back. And it just depends on how much depth you're going to give this box. So let's slide it maybe halfway. I'm going to draw that line. I'm going to draw it dark so you can see it. You can draw it lightly. So there are 2 parallel lines, perfectly vertical, straight up and down. So one of them is not tilting. So sometimes I see students and they do this. They go here and they start kicking out their ruler like this, and they'll draw the line in. I'm going to draw it dark so you can see what it looks like. And then the back edge of their box, it looks like their house is sort of slanting or tilting or falling over. I'm not sure if that's ever happened to you. It's happened to me before. So just make sure that it's really, really straight up and down. Okay, everybody wants their artwork to look realistic. Well, this is a perfect way of doing that. Next up, the top edge of the box. So we're going to slide it straight up, draw it over like that, and now we've got a box or a cube that we were drawing the other day, but now it's in perspective. So it's all the lines are going towards this vanishing point, and I know that they're equal, they're parallel, they're perfectly vertical. And so now the 4th part is I can erase the extension lines. I will do that now for this box. Okay, so I have my box in 1-point perspective. I'm going to do a few more without talking. You can pause the video or you can keep listening and drawing along with me. I'm going to do this one right over here real quick, the one that was hanging out by itself. And this is actually going to overlap just a little bit with my other box, but that's okay. Okay, so this one's right on the horizon line. The only thing I have to do now for this one is slide my ruler, and I can make it as deep or as shallow as I want. So let's go right about here. I'll erase the horizon lines going through my box because that's not practical to have. Okay, and then the rest of the lines. Okay, so now I've got my boxes that are in perspective. They look great. Now I can erase the rest of the horizon line and my vanishing point. If you drew light until it was right, then you know. You've got a nice clean paper afterwards. Okay, so here are your boxes. Now, the goal is this, and I'll write this on a document. So you're going to select a color scheme. I'm going to write this on the back. If you have colored pencils. If you don't have colored pencils, then you are going to shade using 3 values: light, medium, and dark values. You're going to shade your boxes in, your cubes, you're going to shade them in just like we did last time. But if you do have colored pencils, please select one of these color schemes. You're going to either use primary colors, or you're going to use secondary colors, or all warm, or all cool. And I have a few examples to show you. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to fill in these boxes. You can do one each color. What I like to do is to do a little primary blue on one side, primary red on one side, and then a little yellow, primary yellow on another side. So you can kind of plan out your colors ahead of time. If you don't want to use primary colors, then like I said, you can use secondary, or primary and secondary. Well, then you can put them in different orders if you want to. And instead, all warm or all cool. So whatever you want to do. Let's look at some examples quickly. You're going to only have 4 boxes, but this is another example of 1-point perspective using primary colors and 9 boxes. And this student was very creative and had the boxes spiral toward the middle. This student used, it's supposed to be secondary. The blue when I printed it, or the purple when I printed it, turned a little blue. And so this student, they used different shapes as well as their boxes. If you'd like to add to your drawing, you could get a circle tracer. And so the only difference then would be this edge right here will be curved on the end. This front edge is the same as that on the back edge. And then you'd follow your shapes. Here, parallel. This would go to your vanishing point. Same thing, parallel. You want to try that out and add something, that's fine. I had another student who decided to do 12 boxes and made the entire color wheel. So did a little shading, highlights on the front of the boxes, and then shading towards the back of the boxes. And then another student who decided to not erase the extension lines. I would like you to erase the extension lines today, but if you want to go above and beyond and do something else, you can. These are just different drawings in perspective that I wanted to show you, so you have an idea of kind of what you're going for. So plan out your color scheme. If you want to outline and you have Sharpie, you can outline these if you want to. It doesn't matter. This is just a really quick way to practice how to draw 3D on a 2D surface, and that is perspective, the illusion of 3D on a 2D surface. Hope you guys have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.